members of the public that have taken the time and trouble to be here in the public gallery. We'll move on to the minutes, page 5 and 14. Need to confirm those true record. Do I have a proposal for that? Thank you. Debbie's proposed that. Can I have a seconder for that? Thank you, Ian. Any comments on that? Are we happy to accept those in favour accepting? Those in, you weren't here, Paul, were you? Those in favour accepting the minutes, please. Thank you. Thank you. Those against, abstaining.
Oh,
You weren't, Paul.
You went.
Will you just abstain, Paul? Thank you. Any declarations of interest? Do we have any declarations of interest? Thank you, Paul.
Chairman, I have to declare an interest in the item that before us tonight because I have been supporting the residents of Cowes Primary School and therefore I am not able to speak because I have prejudicial interest. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul. That's noted. Any other declaration of interest? There are no other declaration of interest. Thank you. We'll move on to public question time. Now, I do have a list here. We'll work through them. And for those of you in the gallery, we can come to you if needs to be. Yeah, so we do have a question, firstly, from Ginny Byrne of Brading. Is Ginny in the gallery? She doesn't appear to be. Therefore, for that, we will give a written response. We have a question from Nick Binfield. Is Nick Binfield in the gallery? No, Nick Binfield's not there. We will give a written response to that question too. These questions, by the way, come from corporate scrutiny. And we have a question from Keith Miller of Brading. Is Keith there? Keith's not there. And so we will give a written response to that. And from Jen Hughes. Is Jen Hughes here? Hello, Jen.
Bear with me one moment. I'm having to find the question because I want to read it as it was sent to you.
Okay, take your time.
Thank you.
No worries.
Okay. Good evening, councillors and members of the Planning Committee. My name is Jen Hughes. I am a parent representative at Oakfield Primary School, and my question is as follows. Sorry. Yes, it would. Sorry, thank you. That would be great. Thank you.
And so I'm happy to do that, to read it out. And Jen has asked this. Whilst I note the mention of £2,348.76 in funding being released. 2 million. Oh, sorry, yes, I beg your pardon. I'll start again. Whilst I note the mention of £2,348,000 and 76 in funding being released back into the school system, if the 5 schools listed close, this funding merely follows the children it is allocated to and is needed by these children to continue to deliver an education to them, wherever that may be. The estimated deficit savings £592,326 minus the estimated annual ongoing costs of closing stroke maintaining 5 schools at £473,161 equates to an actual year-on-year saving of £119,165. Given that the estimated cost to close these schools is £3,030,693, is this process truly financially viable when it would take over 25 years to break even on expenditure versus yearly savings? And thank you for that question, Jen. And our reply is that the maximum cost of school closures is estimated at 3 million. However, the actual cost is likely to be considerably less. The 2.3 million in redundancy and capitalised pension costs will be influenced by the redeployment strategy and natural staff movement ahead of closures. It's not possible to accurately determine how much the maximum cost of 2.3 million will be reduced without knowing individual circumstances. According to the school's own 2024/2025 budget submission in November 2024, 29 out of 33 maintained primary schools will operate with an in-year deficit, and primary balances are forecast to reduce significantly by 2.1 million in the 24/25 financial year. And 30% of maintained primary schools are forecast to be in deficit, that is debt, by the end of this financial year. And delaying the addressing of surplus capacity will result in schools accumulating greater deficits, with combined debts across maintained primary schools currently forecast at £5.2 million by March 2027. By incurring one-off costs from closing 5 schools, the local authority will prevent the escalation of the deficit position by an estimated 592,000 in 25/26 and a further 1.2 million in 26/27. The closures will also release much needed funding into the local school system, estimated at 2.3 million in 25/26 and 3.3 million on an ongoing basis. This will allow school leaders to access the resources they need to drive up the quality of education they provide and for children's outcomes to improve. Jen, that's the written answer. It will be sent to you in writing and will be published on our website. Do you have a follow-up question?
Yes, I do. And it's in regards to the costing and the school that obviously I'm here to talk about, which is Oakfield Primary School. The estimated cost that the latest document has highlighted to close just Oakfield Primary School, our share of that £3,030,000 is £1,053,924. That is the cost to close Oakfield Primary School. Now, given the fact that with our 5 schools, and yet our school is going to take over a third of that 3 million to close, is it really financially viable to close Oakfield Primary School, a school that has lost circa 10% of their students since September? We're proving, therefore, that our school is not a choice. It is a desperately needed community resource that should remain open.
Jonathan?
Thank you. Obviously, the question seeks quite detailed financial response, and officers may wish to comment, but I would refer to the answer that's already been given. If one looks at the overall position,
It doesn't address the million for Oakfield. That addresses the whole point.
Allow him to answer the question. We've given you the courtesy of asking the question. Please allow him to answer at least. Thank you.
I think if a detailed response in respect of an individual school is sought, I would actually refer to officers on that point.
We're going to provide that detail in writing to you, Jen, and that'll be published on their website also.
This isn't a question, but just something I meant to say at the beginning. I asked my financial question first in person as an oral question last Thursday at the Children's Scrutiny meeting. I was then advised that it was complex, despite simplifying it to ask if it was financially viable, yes or no, based on the figures. And then I submitted it, as I was requested, as a written question for Tuesday's meeting, the corporate scrutiny. It was then not answered, and although a written response was provided, it wasn't made available to myself, which has meant that I have had to take 3 meetings to ask 1 question to get an answer. And I don't think that that is conducive to a democratic process, because this is the only chance we get to engage. And yet 3 meetings I've had to attend to get an answer to that question. So I just wanted that minuted, okay? But thank you.
Thank you for that. And I hope we've, at least this committee, this cabinet have answered your question for you tonight. I will provide a written response to the follow-up question. And thank you for it. I also have from corporate scrutiny a question from Hugh Street. Is Hugh in the gallery? Hugh isn't here. We will give Hugh a written reply. I have a written question from Ms. K. Arnold. Is Miss K. Arnold in? She isn't. Therefore, we will give a written response to that question. I have a question written from Mr. D. Afonso. Is Mr. D. Afonso in the gallery? He isn't. We will give a written reply to that. All of these written replies are published, of course. Yeah, on the website. And we have a written question from Ms. D. Wilson. Is Ms. D. Wilson in the gallery? She is not. Therefore, a written response will be given to that. A written question from Mrs. P. Jackson. Is Mrs. P. Jackson here? She's not. We will give a written response to that. And well, we have Mr. N. Binfield either again or we've dealt with it, but he is here, so that will also get a written response. And I do have an oral question. Hopefully Becky Howlett is here. Hello, Becky.
Hello. Yeah, I've got a question just relating to something that came up at the scrutiny meeting on Tuesday. There were concerns raised at Tuesday's meeting around the delay, the 2-week delay, and how that's going to affect school admissions. I sort of oversee the school admissions into reception each year at Oakfield. So I just wondered if somebody could explain what the practical implications of this delay will look like and what you were kind of referring to. Thank you.
Good question. Thank you for that, Becky. Jonathan.
Chair, probably it's easier if we turn to the item in question. I have a request to make of Cabinet, and the answer to the question that's been asked is part of that position, and perhaps I can do that as part of the request I'm going to make of Cabinet. It may be fair to the question if there is a point remains unanswered after that to offer a further opportunity.
Becky, thank you. I think to understand what we're going to make a statement shortly and it will address some of that you've asked. Thank you for your question. Any further questions from the public gallery?
Chair, Mark Chiverton, Unison, asking this on behalf of all the trade unions. It's a kind of broad general question really, and it's this really, given the complete disquiet amongst the wider school community and the communities affected by the proposals, given the massive concern amongst the staff affected, which is giving rise to requests from to all the trade unions to undertake ballots on industrial action, given the very likely legal challenge from everything we hear from the Anglican diocese, and given the fact that despite the discussions that have taken place and the assurances have been given to the trade unions that every effort will be made to redeploy staff, given the fact that even at a best estimate, that's still likely to lead to as many as, or as even more than 150 redundancies of different types, is it not time to withdraw the current proposals and consult meaningfully over a much longer period on a new set of proposals, so that a more measured decision, a different decision can be taken in a more measured way. Because frankly, there is such concern about this that if we're not careful here, everyone connected with the council is going to be drawn into disrepute. Is it not time to withdraw the proposals? Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. I don't know if you want to speak to that, Jonathan. Mark, what I would say is that there is a statement coming which addresses that shortly. If you'd be prepared to wait for that statement, it may answer some of that question that you've just put to us.
I'm prepared to wait for that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. That's very kind. Well,
I think I should respond to Mr. Chiverton now, because what I'm going to say shortly is more of a request than a statement. But I have to reiterate, as I have throughout this process, that I and officers are happy with the procedure. And this process has been going for pretty much a year now. We are aware, you refer to many facets of this, and obviously lots of ongoing discussions. But one thing I should perhaps highlight is that obviously we are aware that there has been a letter before action from the diocese. That has been responded to very fully. It deals with pretty much all the concerns you have set out. I believe advice is being taken as to whether that full response can be released. I don't know. I've not been able to catch up with whether there's advice has been received to that yet, but I know that the diocese initial letter was circulated very widely, so it would be helpful if that could be done. I think the only other thing I would say is that if this process is delayed, the position and concerns you refer to, I think it's fair to say, would be a lot worse if a year's delay, which is what we would be talking about, were to impact on the education system.
We'll just come back quickly on that with another question. This matter was referred to the full council for an indicative vote, and the full council did, by a small majority, actually vote that it was satisfied with the procedure, albeit we know that concern about that, intense concern, exists at a whole range of levels. But is it not the fact that the full council rejected the proposals as a whole, and yet there is still a recommendation here tonight, albeit there may not be a decision tonight, to actually close all the schools? How can that be? And is it not the fact that, given the fact that the council has expressed its discontent, does that not draw, if you like, the council's democratic proposals into a kind of further disrepute? Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. And of course, that will be taken into account in all our deliberations. As you know, and I don't wish this to be misunderstood, but the full council was an indicative vote, but we will take that into account, as we will with scrutiny, and I'll come to that very shortly. It's important to the process, it's important to the democracy of the community of the island and of this council that we do so. So we'll address that shortly. Thank you, Mark, for those questions. Any further questions, please? Yeah, if you just tell us your name and ask us your question.
Hi, my name's Vicky Reader, head teacher at Oakfield Primary School. When Oakfield was named, it's likely, could have been anticipated that the numbers of children would reduce significantly. To date, we've had 16 children leave as a result of the school being named. Therefore, knowing the complexities of the children that we serve, please can you clarify that if it turns out not to be possible to carry out everything promised within the documents, we have the assurance that officers will publish a revocation proposal?
Thank you for your question, Jonathan.
I think the undertaking has been given that everything necessary will be done. I've not heard, in all honesty, I've not heard the term revocation proposal. I'm not aware of it, and I'm seeing the Director of Children's Services also shaking his head, some bewilderment down here. I will obviously seek advice on that. Now you've raised it, but our position is that everything that is required and necessary will be done.
Do you have a thought? No, okay. Any further questions from the public gallery? Okay, well, look, thank you for those questions and your participation. We will move on. And I will go to chairman's announcements, which I am not going to, in fact, what I will do, I wasn't going to take any time of this. What I'm going to do is that I'm going to read as part of my announcement the scrutiny recommendations. So at scrutiny, for those of you that were there or were online, scrutiny considered this on Tuesday, and this is what they said to us. They said that the Corporate Scrutiny Committee resolves to urge the Cabinet to postpone decision-making on school places by 2 weeks until the 20th of March, when there is already a scheduled meeting of Cabinet, and resolves to convene a special meeting of the Corporate Scrutiny Committee for the 18th of March. That's 2 days before the scheduled Cabinet meeting. This will allow effective and meaningful scrutiny to be undertaken. Should Cabinet not agree to postponement, then the Corporate Scrutiny Committee agrees to oppose the proposed closure of 5 named schools on the grounds that no effective or meaningful scrutiny has been facilitated by the council leadership. That is a recommendation to Cabinet from Corporate Scrutiny. We take it very seriously. We respect their views and their decision, and we will respect their recommendation. And therefore, I'd like to move on to the Cabinet report of the Cabinet Member for Children's Services straight away. Thank you.
Thank you, Leader. And yes, I too, and I think we all do, recognise the importance of scrutiny generally, and perhaps particularly in this process. It's a key part of dealing with any proposals, and let's say perhaps particularly these proposals properly. For that reason, as I indicated a little earlier, following the scrutiny meeting on Tuesday and the request that you have set out, which has been obviously carefully considered, I would like to request through you, Chair, that we do not discuss the school place planning item tonight, but instead that we defer the item, essentially as has been requested, to the Cabinet meeting, which is already scheduled for the 20th of March. And I think to do that would be, if we can decide that, and I hope we can, it would be something that would be in the best interests of both proper scrutiny and transparency. I would like to say that obviously we regret any anxiety that that delay is likely to cause to school communities concerned, and we would appreciate patience and understanding as we navigate through what is becoming a complex but is nevertheless a very important process. Underpinning everything is our commitment to improving education on the island. That remains steadfast, and we will continue to keep all stakeholders informed as we move forward. And at this point, I note the question from Ms. Howlett, who asked about the issue that was raised at scrutiny in relation to primary admissions process. That has obviously been something we have been looking at extremely carefully over the last 48 hours, whatever it is. The process will still occur as planned. It does cause not extra work, but a constriction on the time to do that work. Instead of 4 weeks, which would be the normal, the work will be done in 2 weeks. And I underline that, it will be done in 2 weeks, whatever is necessary to do that. It would have been better if we'd had a little bit longer. It will be a pressured situation, but the primary admissions process, I can confirm, will still be able to occur in the time frame that the revised decision making we have I'm requesting if that is agreed to by Cabinet this evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bacon. I'll take that as a proposal and seek a seconder. Councillor Stevens has seconded that. Any comments, questions? No. Those in favour, therefore, of deferring this until 20th of March can show. That's unanimous. Thank you. Therefore, for those in the public, you've heard that we are deferring the item tonight, this matter, to allow scrutiny to do their work on the 18th of March. And we, on the 20th, will reconvene to consider the recommendations from scrutiny. So we'll move on in our agenda. Thank you for attending, and we will reconvene, as Councillor Bacon said, on the 20th of March. Thank you so much. We'll move on to Cabinet member announcements. Are there any Cabinet member announcements? There are no Cabinet. Oh, Jonathan, please.
I won't go into detail, but I could have mentioned this a little earlier. I perhaps should have done. As it has been a matter of some comment, I should perhaps mention that we have, throughout this process, been talking to the diocese, and there was a specific discussion yesterday to maintain that contact and discuss matters, which myself and the Director of Children's Services attended in Fareham. So people may be interested to know that that contact is ongoing, and there was a specific meeting yesterday.
Thank you, Jonathan, for that clarification. It's important that people do realise we have reached out and met with Bishop in Fareham, the Director, myself and the Cabinet member yesterday. Julie.
Thank you, Chair. Just to say that next Thursday is the culmination opening department in Ryde, which has been a project funded by Arts Council England and supported by the Isle of Wight Council and delivered by Shademakers. And I was with Arts Council on Monday, and they told me that it was a gold standard production with that CDF funding. So, and it's going to be talked about at the end of the month up in Rochdale, because it's gone so well. So it should be a really good moment for Ryde and for culture on the island.
The extra money coming into Ryde, fantastic. Any further comments? Thank you. We therefore need to just consider the forward plan. I noticed Councillor Stevens has done that. We've looked at it. Any comments on the forward plan? Ian.
Two or three items that are appearing now. Just to point to the selected developer for the conditional sale of the Pearse Street property for regeneration, which is ongoing with Sandown Town Council and indeed our regeneration team. And hopefully that will provide public toilets at the Pearse Street end of Sandown Esplanade. So that's one. Sale of the former Yarmouth Church of England primary school site at Mill Lane, Yarmouth. That was approved and passed last year. We're just firming up on the heads of terms now with that one. That's on, once again, the local members have been notified, as have Yarmouth Town Council. Can I carry on?
Yeah.
Thanks. I've got two or three, I'm afraid, but it's important to note. Discretionary rate relief policies been brought forward. That seeks to follow national guidance, which is to take away the exemption of rate relief from private education establishments, and therefore gives us a level playing field with indeed the state schools and other schools, and that is obviously a national policy. Just have one more look. I think there's one more somewhere. Yeah, former Western Primary School, Totland. Once again, we've got the variation of terms of sale there. It's ahead of terms. It's no, it doesn't affect us financially. Section 151 officer's been involved with it, so it's looking good, and hopefully we'll get a positive return on that. But once again, that was a decision made last year to sell the site at Western Primary at Totland. Basically, that's it. I've just a quick skim through. Anyone got any queries on it, please come to me on the sections that I've said anyway. Thank you.
Thank you, Ian. Further, Debbie.
Thank you, Leader. I'd just like to highlight, in view of International Women's Day coming up this weekend, and we will be raising the suffragette flag here at County Hall tomorrow, that coming to the Cabinet meeting next week, I will be bringing our Isle of Wight domestic abuse strategy. It's a crime that can affect anyone in a relationship, but it is particularly recognised as a gendered crime because most victims and survivors of abuse are women. There is help available. There are details on the Isle of Wight Council website. So help is available, and I would urge anybody not to suffer in silence. Thank you.
Yeah. Jonathan.
Sorry, Chair, if I could beg your indulgence for a moment. I should have also added one other announcement, that the island-based MASH is now live. Being a child of the 70s, I still want to say Mobile Army Surgical Hospital, but it is the Multi-Agency Safeguarding Hub, which I've just been reminded of by an email. So it is a great achievement, I think, that is now up and running. It's in its test stage at the moment, but live, and any issues that arise, there's an opportunity for tweaks to occur. But we're very grateful to the input from police and health, who are all part of this process. And I'm told that all is going well at the moment, but it's certainly a testament to the staff who've worked furiously to get that up and running as it is now. And it will be a major benefit, I think, to have that on the island. So I'd like to thank the staff for doing that and just make sure everyone is aware of that. Thank you.
Thank you, Jonathan. I suppose the question is, what age child were you in the 70s? But you don't have to answer that. We'll move on to members' question time. Any questions from members? There's Councillor Blake's here.
Thank you, Chair. Question for yourself, actually, is Cabinet Member for Highways. We had a recent Ventnor residents meeting at County Hall, in which we were told by the Director for Highways that the council had not received any design plans from Island Roads in respect to the Graben, which contradicts what Island Roads' own Rob Gillespie has said in public. Can you clarify what the status is of the design on that road? It is, I'm sure Councillor Down will agree with me, it is at a perilous state at the moment, and buses are millimetres away from bottoming out, and I suggest that work gets on as quickly as possible before some damage is done and potentially lives are at risk.
Thank you, Councillor Blake. Share your concerns, and I don't have that information to hand, but I will get that for you. And I'm as interested as you are to find out what the immediate plan is for that. Share your concerns about that road.
Just a quick supplementary if possible as well. The other another road in my ward, being South Grove Road, has been closed for over a year now due to the possibility, I believe, of a wall collapsing. There has been no movement on that wall. Is it possible to reopen that road to allow residents to go down the length of it by simply placing some water-filled barriers to protect any possible fallen material from that wall? That would be the most sensible way forward, I believe.
My understanding is it's not possible to put, this is my understanding, to put the water barriers leaving sufficient space because the water barriers have to be a distance away from the wall if it were to collapse further. I'll get some further information on that, but it was looked at. I know there's been a clean up there, and it's also subject to legal proceedings, as you're aware. Are we talking about?
Sorry,
Bath
sorry,
Road?
Leader, I think you're talking about Bath Road. I was on about South Grove Road, sorry, but that is also another road that could be fixed with a couple of water fill barriers as well.
Apologies, I was getting excited about Bath Road being open. I'll get you the information, Councillor Blake. Thank you for that. I'll share your concerns about that also, by the way. Any further questions? Councillor Downer.
It's not a question, Leader. It's just the fact that I will concur with Councillor Blake about the state of the grabbing. When you're going down over there on a bus, it stops halfway down and it got to gradually go out before it goes down Ocean View Road. But when you're coming up, it's got to stop at the bottom, get into first and then creep up over, and it sort of goes like that. Anyway, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Dan. We're aware of that, and we know some of the history. I know you certainly do, of the cavities under the road. It's been like that for a while, as we know. We'll get some more up-to-date information for both of you. Thank you. Any further questions? There being no further questions, that is it. Thank you to members of the public that have taken the time and trouble to be here tonight. And we will meet again in a week or 2 weeks' time. Thank you all. Meeting's over at 5:38.